All right. Are we ready to do this thing? It's
Let's go. Hey, Jeff.
time for office hours, I think, here, Nathan.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm ready. Here we are. Well, welcome everyone to TrueFire's office hours. A rollicking good time for all involved. I'm certain of it. I am Jeff Scheetz from TrueFire. I'm the director of education at TrueFire. I work with all of our artists on their curriculum, do various things. Been a guitar instructor for a very long time myself. We have the fabulous Nathan running all of the shots you see today, putting everything together on the technical side. Nathan is also a marketing wizard at TrueFire, knows a lot about the platform and can answer any of those questions. So what we want to do with these office hours is really just answer questions for you guys, and we'll try to keep to a theme. We won't get too deep and technical because frankly, anything that's too technical, we're going to need to bring in our proper coders and people that don't see the light of day. We're going to have to bring them out and expose them to the public to answer those questions. But Nathan's going to post a couple cool links that you can send a question to if you've got questions about specific stuff having to do with the technical side of things, or more of that side of things. What I want to talk about tonight is a little bit about how to navigate around TrueFire, right? And also, one of the most difficult things is there's 80,000 videos on TrueFire. So how do you get around? What's a good way to find what you're looking for? Where do you start? That kind of stuff. So we're going to answer those questions tonight. Also, if you have any specific questions, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. I'm monitoring them best I can. Nathan is as well. And we're going to do our best to answer some questions. Maybe we'll also talk a little bit about some behind the scenes stuff, like who's in the studio right now, who is just got done recording today, who do we got coming up, who have we been doing over the last month, right? Some new courses that are coming out. If that seems like something you're interested in, some fun stuff, some behind the scenes stuff, that's kind of what we want to do. So without further ado, I'm just going to launch into a couple of things that I think are super important. If you're new to TrueFire, or even if you just haven't done these things, um, if you haven't checked out learning paths on TrueFire, they are a great way to sort of get yourself you get your bearings about what to do on the site, right? So they are a great place to self-assess, right? So if you can self-assess and sort of decide where you're at, what you need to do, that's what we're going to go. So we're going to do that. Is everybody hearing everything okay? Well, let us know in the chat. Can you hear everything okay? You got a visual. Tom's got a visual on both Nathan and I. Nathan, I'm hearing some feedback from you. So if you're not muted, mute yourself, and that might kill that, I think. Yes, beautiful. All right, sounds good. Everybody says excellent. So when you log into TrueFire, one of the things that you can do if you haven't done this already, no matter what level you're at, and a question I get a lot is, "Hey, I'm a beginner student. What should I where should I go? I'm an intermediate player that wants to play jazz. What should I do?" So the best thing you can do for that is to have an instructor actually assess you and say, here's where you're at, here's what you need to do next. But if you don't do that, the second best thing is our learning paths. So you just go over here, click on learning paths. Let's take a look and I'll show you how I think about learning paths. So our learning paths are something that we've put together to help guide you depending upon what style you want to play. So you're going to go down and pick your style. It could be jazz, acoustic, blues, country, rock, or even bass. Now we know that acoustic is not a style, right? But in our world, acoustic, if someone gets an acoustic guitar, they're going to want to learn acoustic things. So we put this together for everyone that really wants to do, um, you know, acoustic stuff, right? So there may be some acoustic blues in there, some acoustic strumming, but that's an acoustic path. So if you're interested in that fingerstyle, you'll find that there. But let's say we want to play blues, right? Click on the blues learning path. Here's how this works. What you'll see is basically a core course, right? And then some supplementary courses. And as you go down, there's another core course, another one, another one, another one. So I'm going to take you through that a little bit. The first two courses are for absolute beginners. So if you're starting out, I just got my guitar yesterday, boom, jump in here. Take this Learn Guitar 1 and then Learn Guitar 2. If you're already playing, you don't even need to worry about those. Just keep scrolling on down. And by this third course is where we get into the idea that I want to play blues, right? So this is more blues specific. So if you're an intermediate player, you're not going to want to probably spend too much time in this because this is the very basics of playing blues. So what you can do, however, is go in and watch all the lessons. You don't have to go through every lesson, but just look at what's there. You're like, oh, a basic E blues shuffle, I can do that. Oh, this bass, I know how to do that. And if you can do everything there, you move on to the next course, right? The second course. Now, what you'll notice is we also have these supplementary courses at that level. So if you're just starting out on blues, these other courses are really good for beginners. They're not always included in this particular, with the not the same things that's in the core lesson or the core course, but there's extra stuff if you want to spend a little more time there. If you know all the stuff in that core course, move on to the next one, right? Move on to the next one. You go until you find the level that you're at. That's where the self-assessment comes into play. If you go into this third course and you go in there and there's a lesson you're not sure about, that means you need to work on that, right? Because this stuff is basically in a linear fashion, in a chronological order, from starting from the very beginning through the very advanced. Now, it's not exact. So the other thing is every player advances at a different speed, right? So something that's easy for you might be more difficult for the next person, and they need to spend a little bit more time there. That's where, once again, the supplementary courses that are at that level are really helpful. Now, once we get past the three initial courses, we go into Play Blues Guitar 4, Rhythm Principles. You'll see the next one is Play Blues Guitar 4 Rhythm Approaches. And to be honest with you, those are basically the same level of stuff. It's just we have a ton of stuff at that level. So there's two different courses. So you could do either one of those. But if you're a late beginner, intermediate player, want to learn how to play blues rhythm, there's a ton of great lessons in this course for you to dig into. And if you say, man, I love that stuff, but I want some more, check out all the supplementary courses. There's more of that same stuff right here that you can sort of dig into on your own. All of the core courses we have went through, as a matter of fact, I have went through and looked at all of our stuff and picked out the best lessons that best represent level 4 rhythm guitar, right? In the blues genre. You go on to the next thing, and now we've got the licks. So we've got Play Blues Guitar 5 lick. We call this one lick vocabulary, lick lexicon. Same thing, a ton of licks at that level, right? Sort of the intermediate to late intermediate level. You'll find a ton of those there, and supplementary courses to help you along your way. So always when we're doing that, it is a matter of thinking about where you are, going through the courses. When you find something you need to know, work on that. If you feel like I got this down pretty well, I know most of these licks, move on to the next one. And you just continue with that. You'll go to the next, the Play Blues Guitar 6, soloing principles, gets into a little bit more theory, a little bit more understanding of how to solo over chord changes. We keep scrolling down. There's more supplementary courses because we've got a lot of courses. There's hundreds of blues courses at TrueFire. You go all the way down to level 7. We get into some different things like slide. We get into fingerstyle blues. When we get to level 8, now we're Play Blues Guitar Advanced Rhythm Principles. So just like at level 4 was sort of the intermediate, now this is late intermediate to more advanced stuff. Same thing with the next one. Same thing with 9, we've got more advanced licks, and 10 is soloing principles that are definitely more advanced, right? We're definitely doing more advanced stuff there. Now, that's not to say you can't, as an intermediate student, find some really awesome stuff in the Jack Rouge Shades of Blue course because you can, right? So as I said to start with, the learning paths, it's not an exact science. Do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this. It's more of guidelines to give you a place to start in this sea of amazing courses, right? Most TrueFire courses are not uh, start here, end here, start here, end here. They're more like little moments in time of like, oh, I love blues rhythm. Here's some really cool lessons in this course for an intermediate blues player that's trying to work on their rhythm. And here's another course with similar lessons, but from a different instructor, from just a different angle. So that's the thing to keep in mind with learning paths. You can sort of cherry pick and bounce around between them, but it's a great way to, once again, self-assess. As you go through these, you will notice there's progress tracking that will ultimately put your progress at the top of the page, but you can pick each lesson. You can say, yes, I've completed that lesson, or I need to work on that lesson. That will help you sort of track your progress. I know one question that came in was someone asking about progress tracking across all of your different devices, right? Across, and remembering it from iOS app to the desktop player to basically our web player. And yeah, that's something we're definitely working on, getting all of that together, because we want to make it to where you'll sort of always know where you are in the big scheme of things. Okay. So that's where learning paths is definitely, to me, a great place. Anybody that comes to me and says, I'm not sure where to start, this is a great place to do it. If you don't do a private lesson with one of our instructors that offer private lessons, because that's another option. Because, if somebody does a private lesson with me, I can assess where they are. This way, it's a way for you to assess sort of yourself. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the first thing I want to talk about is the learning paths. And you could go back, these are in genres, so blues or country, but you can bounce back and forth between them. There's a lot of things, as you know, as a guitar player, intermediate rhythm for a blues player is going to be relevant for intermediate rhythm for a rock player or intermediate rhythm for a country player. There are many of those things that are cross genre. So once you're working on a lesson at this level for this, it really helps you. So I don't want to miss all of the questions because I'm sure you guys are going to have a most important course for beginners is Smart Practice by Jeff Scheetz. Thank you, Tom, for that plug. That is true. You can jump in if you want to learn how to practice. That's great. So we've got people already jumping in. Asking about courses, right? And I'll answer a couple of these. We may get to some of these. More plans for play in the style of courses. Love the Van Halen, the Billy Gibbons and David Gilmour. Yes, we've talked about that. So we have done a couple of those things. You've noticed the play in the style of Van Halen, the Chris Bono course. That's amazing, where he really dives into songs, giving you the exact songs from Van Halen. There's a little bit of question of which artist to do. Some of the artists, ironically, like Billy Gibbons is one. We are talking to Billy Gibbons himself about doing a course himself with us. So there's a fine line between, well, it would be great to get Billy Gibbons to show us how to play like Billy Gibbons. And Jeff McErlane does an amazing job of breaking that down and analyzing it. And I think for me, some of those courses are more about not always necessarily just playing the note for note songs. Like even on the Bono course, the Van Halen, he nails it note for note, but it's all the insights that he tells you about. Hey, here's how, this riff was something that Van Halen played over and over again, and you can do this and this. So it's the insights that make it cool. So one thing that I think is really cool like that is our Guitar Heroes courses, right? The Guitar Heroes courses where our artists talk about their guitar heroes and then play either songs by those folks or things that are really similar to those, and then talk about what parts of that they use, what influenced them, right? Because as you go on in your guitar journey, you know that learning something note for note is cool, but it's not just the playing it note for note, it's what you get out of it. That's what makes it cool. So I think that's what we, and me as director of education, like to try to get our artists to focus on. Give students something that they can then apply to their own world, right? Not just, oh, here's a lick. Now you know that lick. Good luck, right? that's to me not super helpful. But if I show you a lick and go, hey, here's a lick. This lick is from the A Dorian scale. And did you know you could play that over this minor seventh chord? Now it becomes something that you can use a lot more. So a lot of TrueFire courses are sort of built that way. Okay. Um, we've got a couple of people saying, hey, man, thanks for being here, everyone. Um, right. So, yes, sometimes the supplementary courses are recommended in different things. Honestly, because sometimes there's some lessons in a course that are a little bit more intermediate level, and there's some lessons that are definitely more advanced, right? There's very few courses that are just in a small silo of, man, this is only for this level player, right? There are things that a intermediate person could figure this out, or a late beginner, but then there's another cool lesson in there that goes a little deeper. So that's why sometimes there's, like I said, some sort of cross pollination between lessons. So anyway, that's learning paths. A couple questions. Let me jump into one more thing. Nathan, is that cool with you if I roll into talking about my next favorite thing to tell people to do?
Absolutely. And actually, Jeff, I actually saw a chat come in that I might be able to answer. Somebody asked if any of the holiday promos are still active. So glad that they enjoyed them. No, many of them are not on anymore. However, during the month of January, we have our Jamuary promotion that we're running right now, where you can get in the jams for up to 40% off. Tomorrow actually is going to kick off our next big flash sale for, actually, you mentioned it, the Guitar Heroes courses. Those will be going on sale tomorrow as well. So that's a little tease there for that. So stay tuned to your emails and follow us on social media, and you'll know that we have some more of those coming up within the next few days. But follow us for January. We have a really cool promo coming up in February as well that everybody will want to tune in for.
Very cool. I love it when I accidentally do something right that marketing appreciates by just giving out good advice. And by gosh, we're selling that course. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm going to answer one more question. As a beginner plus with both electric and acoustic, is there one learning path that's better to start on? So that's a really good question. Our Learn Guitar series, Learn Guitar 1 and Learn Guitar 2, are very generic. Those are like, hey, if you got a guitar, I don't care what style you want to play, do those. So make sure you do both of those. And then you could sort of go through, either the acoustic, or if you have a particular style, like if you're thinking, I really want to learn blues, I would definitely do the blues. You can do both at the same time, right? So that first course in both blues and acoustic and country is sort of the same level, some of the same stuff. Then the second course, some of the same stuff. So meaning some of the same level, right? But it's just geared towards country, or it's geared towards blues. So that's when I talk about a lot of crossover. You'll definitely find a lot of crossover things that you could use for both. So pick a style and dig in. That's the best way to do it. So the next thing I want to talk about, the next thing that I think gets overlooked a lot when you try to navigate the sea of information at TrueFire, is the search bar, right? Now there's ways to find, like, let's say we wanted to play some blues. Well, we can go here to our courses drop down, and we can click on a style. Um, we can click on blues, and then we can go and we can click on topics or instruments or skill level or genre or educators. We can drill down there. But if we type blues up here, right, we're going to be in the sort of same boat, right? Same, going to take us to the same thing. Oh, the same stuff. We got the same drop downs, but you'll notice there's 363 blues courses here. There's probably even more than that. And so we scroll down. It's easy to get lost. You can find a favorite educator. Once again, you go over here and use the drop down, but the same thing, there's a lot of those, right? So chords, there's 36 courses. So sometimes hard to narrow it down. Now, as we do that, you keep narrowing it down. But one thing I really think is important is if you're looking for a particular subject, if you narrow that down, you can really drill down on it. Because even in blues, you'll notice that there's blues lessons. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this, right? The subcategories. But if we click on lessons, here's all the lessons that are sort of about blues. 19,224. The channel videos have to do with our channel. So everybody that's got a channel will have blues lessons. They're going to show up here. We can go over to jams. Here's our audio jams. basically that will give you jam tracks, which is very cool place to be. And educators can show you a bunch of educators, no blues educators whatsoever. That doesn't really work here unless we're searching for an educator, right? So if we go back to courses, that's a lot. Lessons, that's a lot. But let's say I want to do something more specific, like hybrid picking, right? Let's say I'm working on my hybrid picking and I want to figure that out. So I can go to courses and look for that. But if I go to the search bar, look what happens if I can spell hybrid picking. That's always a special part of it. Um, if I click on hybrid picking, so there's some courses that are about. So you'll see courses that are absolutely about hybrid picking, like the Greg Koch course, the James Hogan, the Chris Bono Guitar Gym. Prashant has a great hybrid picking course that we brought over from Jam Play. So there are a lot of specific courses. And then we go down, it's like, well, here's some other, Jeffrey Marshall. It's not a course completely about hybrid picking, but there's some good hybrid picking stuff in there. So it's going to show up here. But if you really want to drill down, click on the lessons tab. Now I'm going to go to lessons, right? Now there's 996 lessons of some kind from some course, right? So a course may be all about blues soloing. And as we tag it and put it together, it's about blues soloing. But there may be a great lesson in there about hybrid picking, right? So there's like a great Zito thing with hybrid picking that may not show up as a course, right? So don't forget to drill down on that. And then when we do that, we can click on that. And then what happens is we go to what course it came from, and we can watch that particular lesson. Oh, here's the hybrid picking in that particular one, right? So I think that's important to think about when you're trying to hone in on something. Don't forget to click up here, even if we talked blues bending, something more specific to blues, right? So are there courses about blues bending? Yep. That Kid Anderson blues bending course is great because Kid's a monster blues bender. The Macrolane one's really good, right? But if you go to lessons, now check this out. There's tons of cool lessons from different courses about blues bending, right? So that's, to me, something that I think gets overlooked, right? I know it might seem pretty simple and straightforward, but I find a lot of stuff. When I have to find somebody a lesson, a particular lesson, I can't remember where it was, I will go into this and do it. Because if you go to courses, you don't have as much selection there, right? So don't forget to search and then drill down. And now I can go still while I'm drilling down here, I can go over here and drill down even more. Once again, always the drill downs over here on the left can get you there, but sometimes you have to really drill down to get something. And look, all of the various things can sometimes throw off your whole vibe if you're trying to, hey, I want to do something with blues bending. Just go there, grab a lesson, and have some fun. That's, I think, for me, one of the things that I like to tell everybody. It's easier to just get something and start playing rather than get too caught up in the myriad of lessons that can really swamp you, right? So that's just another simple tip, but let's talk about this. We got a couple questions coming in about these. I'm going to answer a couple questions. It's because they're rolling. If that's cool, Nathan. Talk a little bit about intermediate players trying to learn a new genre. So, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I will say, going back to the learning paths, you just start at the beginning and you breeze through that first stuff really quickly. You don't even have to take time doing it until you get to where you're stuck when you're trying to learn a new genre. If you're a blues guy and you want to learn jazz, go to the jazz learning path and just start doing those first few lessons. It's like, oh, that's easy. I got that. I know I can already do all this stuff. You're going to run into a spot where, hey, I need to work on this. And even if you're an intermediate player, you're going to get to the deeper stuff where you're like, really have to do that. So I still think that's a good way to sort of self-assess. Rockabilly learning path. Yeah, we've talked about that, and we have a pretty good chunk of rockabilly stuff, right? So if I go, my rockabilly courses, we have quite a few different rockabilly things. A lot of Jason Laughlin, of course, great educator, does a ton of that. But if you go to lessons, there's 526 lessons there. So while they're not exactly in order. You can drill down a little bit on the rockabilly. But if as we get more rockabilly, we probably will. We'll actually probably put together um, more learning paths, like a more of a metal path. We've got some ideas for different things. Since we merged with Jam Play, we obviously have a much larger library of lesson material, which really allows us to do that. Most of the learning paths were sort of put together before all that happened. So in the future, new learning paths will have a lot more material. Um, Plans to expand classical and flamenco. Yeah, there we really like we love all of that. And we've talked about expanding that. Sometimes, and just to be honest with you guys, sometimes at TrueFire, we are so booked in the studio, we crank out so much stuff that sometimes it's just a matter of there's only so many of us and there's only so much time, right? Only so many open spots in the studio. So sometimes we have to prioritize and we do more of this and that. And you've probably noticed over the years that sometimes comes goes. Like there was a time where we jumped all into like a lot of singer songwriter stuff, right? Um, a lot of Ellis Paul courses, Peter Mulvey. We did a lot of courses there, and we didn't do as much, blues or rock during that time because we were focused on that. So we will focus our efforts at different times. So that the seasons kind of ebb and flow depending upon what we're really focusing on. Um, is TrueFire connected with Artist Works? Yes, indeed. We are the same company. So TrueFire, Jamplay, and Artist Works are all under the same corporate umbrella called TrueFire Studios now, and including a company called Fader Pro. Fader Pro does mostly EDM stuff, a lot of sort of how to use Pro Tools, how to use various things. Great company, they do great work, and they're also in the same family. So TrueFire Studios, or if you see TFS, that is the parent company, which is TrueFire and Jamplay and Artist Works and Fader Pro. Plans for a praise and worship learning path. So don't know if there's plans for a learning path, but there's plans for a more praise and worship instruction, right? So we have several things fall under a little bit more of the gospel thing, but we're planning on doing some other things in that sort of genre. So sometimes we have to have enough stuff to stand up a learning path, enough material. Sometimes we got just a few courses and it's not really enough to say, here's course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just not enough, right? So that's what the other thing that sort of dictates what we make into a learning path. And we try to use the most popular genres, right? The popular styles, like the old acoustic style. um, all right, so I'm gonna talk about one more thing, and then I'll get into more questions. And Nathan will possibly shout out with some answers to some of these questions. He's storing up his knowledge right now. He's about ready to burst. I can tell.
You
Uh,
know it, absolutely, Jeff.
I know it's hard. You've been quiet a long time, Nathan, and that's unusual for you. So I know you're ready.
You know what?
So I'm
Yep.
going to talk about one more thing, guys, and then we'll talk about some of the artists we've got coming up. And I think you guys are going to be pretty excited about that. And thank you all for being here. And we're going to do more of these office hours things where we'll talk about some different topics. So if you've got any specific topics you want to talk about, man, fire away to Nathan or I at any time. But the one other thing I want to talk about while I'm here before I run out of time is just a little bit about how to work with TrueFire courses, right? I think sometimes it gets overlooked how easy it is to jump into a course, and especially with Sound Slice. Many of you guys probably already know this, and you're probably hip to it. But if not, if I go here and I want to do the Mike Welch course, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to play it. I'm going to just go and grab the crosscut groove. So I can watch the video. This is just the performance, right? And we've got Sound Slice down here. Sound Slice is like the most brilliant thing. Um, Hopefully you guys can hear this. All right, so I can watch his performance, but if there's a spot that I'm struggling with, I can just simply drag and select a chunk, let go, and now play it, and it's just going to loop that part, right? Just that part. But if that's still too fast, all I got to do is slow it down. Once my internet catches up with my brain, it's going to go. Sorry, my internet is struggling. It's not going to work at all now that I did that.
You made it too slow,
Thumbs up.
Jeff.
Am I still good? Am I still good here, Nathan?
Yep,
Sorry, let me go back.
you're all good. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, guys. My internet is dragging right now for some reason. As long as I can talk, I'll be good. It may not be able to let me play the stuff I wanted to play, but I can slow it down. I mean, the ability to slow something down like, that much, back in the old days, you'll hear Brad talking about having to put his hand on a record and slow it down. I was not quite that far back, but we had cassette tapes that we had a slow down speed on a cassette tape, which was amazing. So this is like very cool. The other thing that's cool about Sound Slice is wherever I click in Sound Slice, it goes to that point in the video, right? So I go back here, it jumps back to there. Vice versa. If I click somewhere in the video, then it moves to there in Sound Slice. So the fact that the tab and the Sound Slice is synced up with the video is just, to me, super cool. It's a very easy way to get around in there and do stuff, right? So I think that's a really, really cool feature. And then you're playing, and then you played that, and now you're like, well, let's play the jam track. So you go to the jam track, and then you can just play along with it. It's something that, you just grab your guitar. What I love about all that is the fact that it's easy. It's just, you can watch the lesson, you can learn the tab, you can slow down, you can watch him, you can loop sections, and then you say, you know what, I want to play it. Now, I wasn't playing what he was playing, but if you want to play exactly what he was playing, there's the jam track. If you want to just jam, and I think a great thing on something like this is you get some ideas and you're like, oh, I hear kind of the vibe, and then you just play the jam track and play. So to me, I think one of the biggest things that I tell students all the time is just start playing. Don't worry so much. Find a lesson you dig and you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. Jump in, right? Jump in and start playing. I mean, that to me is probably my number one piece of advice. Don't worry about, oh, I got to find the right learning path. I got to do this. Don't forget to have fun playing. I understand we want to do the things the right way. And as I say in my smart practice, right? You have to play the right things in the right way and put in the time. That's how you're going to improve. So no question about that, but don't forget to have fun along the way. And this just makes it easy to do, right? This is much better than holding your thumb on a record. Trust me. All right. So guys, let's look at some questions here. I know you guys have, Nathan's already answering. Nathan is TrueFire. So when he answers something, that's Nathan giving you, he's following along as well. Knew about the slowdown feature, but not the Sound Slice thing. Thank you. Absolutely. That's such a cool tool. It's just a very cool thing to be able to follow along and jump to spots and loop things. And, there's more things you can do with Sound Slice as well. Yeah, updating some of the jam play stuff for sure. Can't, the tab scrolls, can't watch the tab. So the other thing about it is you have the ability to resize things and do some different stuff there as well. So I'm not 100% sure what you're asking, but if the tab scrolls down, it depends upon what device you're on. If you're on the desktop player or if you're on an iPad, it can be different, right, Nathan? So that sometimes is a factor, right?
Yep, it really
So
depends on the device that you're on, for sure.
Right. So that could be part of it. Andy's asking, with an all access pass, you have access to Jamplay, TrueFire, and ArtistWorks. Nathan can give more details, but yes, you have all access to all of the TrueFire content, all the Jamplay content with that. Um, ArtistWorks is a little bit of a different animal, right? So the way ArtistWorks is you sign up for a particular school with a particular instructor is kind of how people dig into ArtistWorks. Like if you want to study with Paul Gilbert, you will be part of Paul Gilbert School. So there's not necessarily like what we have. Here's access to everything, right? All access in our world is access to everything, with the exception of like our private lessons or our channels. Channels are run by the instructors themselves. So there's a couple things that fall outside of that scope, but all of the lesson content that used to be on Jamplay that now lives at TrueFire, and all of the stuff on TrueFire, basically you have access to that with an all access, the same all access pass, right? Our backing tracks available. So here's a great, the artist channels are good too. Thank you, Ralph. That is so true. Backing tracks. Yes. So we have a ton of backing tracks also at TrueFire, and there's a couple different ways you can work with those. But if you go to the jams, you can find there's jam packs, which are just jam packs, but there's multi-track audio jams, which are, as the name suggests, multi-track. And you have the ability to solo things, to mute things. You have ability to mix them, which is very cool. So you can drop out a rhythm guitar and jam along with the rhythm guitar, just like our In the Jam. And I'm not going to get into that with my internet being sketchy right now. But the In the Jam, same thing, right? So you have the ability to mix, put yourself in the jam, and you can do that with the multi-track audio jams as well. Courses regarding modal playing, absolutely. There's a lot of courses on modes, and so hey, check out my wisdom here. Let's go modes and see what it says. So it's going to give us a lot of things. My street theory course goes over all the modes, just so you know. Tom Dempsey's great course on modal stuff. Modes that matter, modal expose, 50 modal licks, the power of 5, which is really cool when he hints at the modes, modal rock soloing. So once again, go hit the search, and now we go in what are modes, the modes, by Robin Ford, the modes by John Finn. It's got tons of good stuff in there that you can dig into. So you can basically see how you want to do that, right? Anything here you want to answer, Nathan? I just keep talking. Otherwise, any questions you want to specifically talk about, not just type about?
Sure. So it's we actually got a few different. You might actually be able to weigh in on this as well, Jeff. Is what are some of the benefits of the desktop player and the web interface? I know with the desktop player you can download the actual course materials to your computer and be able to use them at any time if you have purchased the course. But also
Yes.
having it on your your desktop, it's great in case your internet goes out. You have all of that access right there. But Jeff, do you have any other pointers for folks who
I think that's the biggest one to me. And it's a little bit different the way you store your courses in your library with the desktop player, but being able to take it with you anywhere you go for any courses you've purchased is huge. You can move it around. You can go anywhere with it. Obviously, the web player, you're online, you're streaming it, right? So that's probably the biggest one. And probably in one of the next ones of these office hours, we may do a deep dive into the desktop player, talk about the features of that, how to download, what you can do in there. We may do that with that, and maybe even the mobile app, just to give ourselves a little bit more deeper dive into that.
Absolutely, Jeff. That actually brings me to a cool point for our upcoming office hours events, which we plan on having more of these as we go. We would love to hear from you about what you want to know about the TrueFire platform and how we can help you become a better musician. So in the comments below, you can write, after this video is done, you can write what you'd like to see. And also in the description of this video below, you can submit a question that we might answer at upcoming live events. And if we get enough questions about the same thing, we may focus one of our office hours on that said question. So if there's anything directly that you would want to know, feel free to do so. And also, if you're having any issues, any technical issues on your end with our platform, you can reach out to our help staff, and they would be happy to help you. We also have a great FAQ that you can find on our website that should be able to answer most of your questions right off the bat. I also wanted to take this moment to just remind everybody that you can get a 14-day free trial of TrueFire All Access if you do not already have it. Jeff, actually, if you want to jump into the All Access page there, we can talk through it. But if you go to All Access on the website on TrueFire.com, you can see all of the great benefits of being an All Access student. But once again, if you create an account, you can get a 14-day free trial if you have not done it already, and be able to see all of the great things that you can access with All Access. There's some behind-the-scenes features sometimes as well, so make sure that you jump onto that and you stay current there. But once again, if you have any questions at all, you can put them into the chat, you can put them in the comments below, and you can also reach us through the survey that you'll see in the description of this video as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, Nathan, if we're not getting to anyone's questions, or you've got a question that maybe doesn't exactly fit what we're doing right now, feel free to post it there. We're going to keep all of those questions, review those, try to answer anybody's question, and try to come up with a good answer for it. So feel free to do that. A good question, Mario. Is it better to start on electric or nylon strings? Man, as a beginner, start on whatever you have. That's the best advice I can give you, whatever you've got. If you're going to go out and buy a guitar, it can be argued that electric guitar is possibly easier to play. But if it's a decent electric guitar, there are some really bad playing electric guitars. Oftentimes electric strings are smaller. Nylon strings, traditionally people say, well, they're easier on your fingers, but they are indeed larger in diameter. So there's a little bit of give and take. And, if you want to, play Metallica, nylon string might not be your best bet to play. So you're going to, I tell beginners, get whatever guitar is going to inspire you to play, because the key is practice. It's time on the instrument, right? Practice and repetition is what's going to get you there. I don't care what guitar you're playing. But as far as fingering, the nicer guitar you get often plays easier. There's things you can do if you're an absolute beginner and you've got a really crappy playing guitar. You can actually put a capo. And when I say crappy playing guitar, that usually means that the action is like this far off the neck. You can put a capo on the first fret. Capo should be laying around here somewhere. A capo on the first fret, and then now it makes your first fret the second fret, but it lowers your action. So that's a good tip if you are a beginner and your guitar doesn't play very well or it's hurting your fingers. You can do that. Mark's interested in learning about electric guitar amp effects. I tell you what, we have a great course by Jeff McElwain, the Guitar Effects Survival Guide, where he goes through a ton of different effects, shows settings, gives examples, playing examples, different styles that use that effect. Also talks about what order to put your effects in. Well, there's not exactly an absolute order you have to have. There's sort of a generally, this works better than that kind of idea. So he goes over that. It's a cool course. It's actually a little bit of an older course, but it's still really good information. The information is still there, which is great. All access, how sweet it is. Yes, indeed. All access is a good thing, man. It's hard to argue with being able to see all of these courses for what we have. Slash started playing on a one-string guitar. Absolutely. Anything playing is better than not playing. So I've seen people play on everything. It's usually not, it's not the arrow, as they say. So
I have a question for you,
yourself.
Jeff. What is the most
Sure.
unique thing or guitar that you've ever seen somebody play or have
The
played
most
yourself?
unique guitar. So a good friend of mine, I don't know if this is the most, but this is really cool. Good friend of mine took a guitar. Brad Enquist is his name. He took a guitar and he hollowed out underneath here, and he put a typewriter in there, an old school like typewriter, right? Where you hit a key and it pops up, it pops the thing up. And he basically set that up so the keys, the whatever you call those things, the keys would come up underneath the strings and play notes. So he had access. So it was like frets. Basically, it was like if you can imagine a fret bopping up underneath any of these and playing it, right? So you basically had, you had, but he had it set up and then tuned. So he could play a lick up here and do this arpeggio and then go tick, 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 and it would hit notes that were way up here that you couldn't hear. That's amazing. So, I
Wow,
mean, he was
that's crazy.
as much of a guitar nerd as you could possibly be, as you can imagine. But it was awesome. So, anyway, it was really ridiculous to try to play, but he actually got to where he could do some really cool stuff where he'd play with this hand down here, and then this hand on the keys he would hit, and it would pop those frets up. I don't know. It's probably more information. I'm sorry, we're going down a rabbit hole, but very cool.
That's great.
So yes, absolutely. Rodrigo and Gabriella, yes, we have talked to those guys. They are so busy that we haven't been able to make that happen. But talk to them, love their stuff, and would love to get them in. Let's talk about who have we just had in the studio. Let's talk about that, because that's one of my favorite things. So sort of the process, we talk to a lot of different players. We have internal meetings, talk about people that we want to have come in the studio, what we want to do. Sometimes it's based around style, sometimes it's based around the player. And then we reach out to those folks. And oftentimes we work with people that are touring and that are busy and got a million things going on. And it's hard to find time for them to, number one, put together curriculum. And then number two, find time to actually get down into the studio. But having said all that, who's in the studio today? He's not in the studio today because I believe he's out eating dinner with the crew right now with Brad. But we have Jared James Nichols, who just did a TrueFire thing, who monster player. He has already a great artist work school. So he's already in the family doing the artist work school, but he came in to record some new content for his artist work school. So if you're not part of that, you should definitely be part of that. And then to also do a TrueFire course that we're going to be putting out. So monster player, great player. We just had Sue Foley in the studio. Again, an incredible blues artist. She's just melody and phrasing with her lines is amazing. We had another artist works instructor just recently came in, did some stuff for his artist works school, which is an amazing school, and also did some TrueFire stuff. Brian Sutton. So Brian Sutton, the king of bluegrass flat picking, just so incredible. Great player, great dude. Man, we've just been doing a lot of cool stuff. We work with so many cool artists. What a great life we live, right? We had Tracy Guns in the studio from LA Guns. Tracy Guns, great player, great rock player, great dude. Can tell more stories than I'll probably live in a lifetime, right? He's been doing it forever. So really cool stuff. And we listen when people say, hey, can you try to get this person? We try to reach out and get whoever we can, that if students love somebody and they really want to see a player, we have our favorites and people that we want to talk to. But they're all, once again, so many good instructors we get to work with. We're just very fortunate. So, yes, this is being recorded to watch in the future. So I better be careful to not say anything that's completely wrong, or it'll follow me around forever.
And actually, that brings me to a point that if you would like to make sure you stay subscribed to all of our upcoming live streams, you can click the subscribe button down below under this video if you're not already a TrueFire YouTube subscriber, and then press the little bell icon to be notified anytime we have a new video or a new live stream coming up. Our YouTube channel is very active. We upload brand new shorts every day. We upload video samples from our courses that are launching, so you can sample these courses before you give them a shot. Our YouTube is full of goodies for anybody who is looking to just get a little bit of a sampling of how TrueFire works. So make sure you stay subscribed so you can see all of our new stuff that we launch out. And sometimes you'll see previews for upcoming courses and so much more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good point there, Nathan. We do a lot of that kind of stuff. So we're going to plan on doing a lot more of these, and yeah, be tuned in, tune in. And once again, sign up for TrueFire. Do the free trial if you're not already signed up. If you're already signed up, then you already know how cool it is. Robert says, "Is the Artist Works stuff available here?" Artist Works stuff is not available here, although um, Guthrie did TrueFire stuff, so he did some things for TrueFire. Um, but because it's the way Artist Works once again works is that's Guthrie's school, right? Guthrie sort of, even though it was shot by Artist Works, Guthrie posts videos, so Guthrie responds to videos. As you know, you can send Guthrie a video, he'll respond. So it's definitely more interactive. It's much more like our TrueFire channels, right? Where the artists interact with instructors. If you haven't checked that out, go check out channels. We have that ability with channels or live stuff at TrueFire. Just a slight different thing with All Access.
So we've gotten quite a few questions actually, Jeff, about All Access and All Access Plus. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this today, but All Access Plus is an offering that we do during certain promos where we will add on certain things to your All Access annual plan, meaning you might get download credits, you might even be able to get a physical gift. So these All Access Plus promos will come out every once in a while, so make sure you stay tuned on our website for any of those. But sometimes, like I said, there'll be digital options, but it will still include a 1 year of All Access, and you'll have the All Access annual plan for 1 year at that point as well. So just stay tuned for the fun and creative offerings that we might have with All Access Plus.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. So Tom's got 110 courses. Congratulations, Tom. That is awesome. Thank you for that. That's amazing. Sam says, cool that, yeah, all of our courses have several free lessons that you can check out, see if the course is good for you, see if you like the instructor, if it's at your right level. So you can sample all that stuff. Even if you're not an All Access member, if you want to just buy a course, that's totally fine as well. So yeah, because we're always evolving, right? And that's what I really appreciate about all you guys. Yeah, feel free to send in suggestions, thoughts, whatever you want to see. We're always coming up with new things, right? And trying to add new things to the site, whether it's new artists or new features, new functions, new ways to look at things. So many of those things come from your ideas and your thoughts. So really appreciate that. I know we're running out of time. Yeah, Tracy Guns, very cool. Warren DeMartini. I would love to get Warren DeMartini. He was one of my favorite players back in the day. Warren DeMartini and Vivian Campbell were two of my guys back then. And Warren's a great player. We haven't talked to Warren yet, but we should do that. We have some really cool. So we did a thing with Little Feet, right? So we record everything at our studios in St. Pete, Florida. But for Little Feet, we actually traveled up to Nashville and recorded at Blackbird Studios, did the whole band. So we did an in the jam cool thing. Little Feet, I mean, amazing. Scott Sherrard, the guy who's done several courses for us, plays guitar with them now. Really cool stuff. But a little sneak peek preview, what we've got coming up a couple months from now. Scott is coming down to St. Pete and he's bringing Fred Tackett with him. Fred's one of the original guitar players from Little Feet. So Fred not only is an amazing player and does the Little Feet stuff, he has played on more records than like anybody. I mean, he's the guitar on Like a Rock from Bob Seger, for crying out loud. He played on the Rhinestone Cowboy with Glenn. I mean, all of these crazy things that you're like, somebody had to play on that stuff. Well, guess what? It was Fred. So he's coming down. He's going to talk about, how to pull off all those different styles, how to be sort of a multi-purpose guitar player, and hopefully share some good stories, because he has amazing stories, just amazing, because he's played with everybody. So that should be really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. So a lot of cool stuff. We're always cooking up new courses, new course formats. And if you have any ideas for that, we would love to hear what you like the best, right? Do you prefer, more deep dive instruction, more solos to play, more licks? Definitely drop that in a message to us anytime, because we listen to that. So I'm going to look one more time, and I'm going to see if there's anything else but I know, once again, keep dropping these in here. We will try to answer these questions best we can. But man, thank you guys for being here. This is really makes it worthwhile to do these. You can watch this later as well, but really makes it fun when we've got so many good questions. How many people work at TrueFire, not including the instructors? Uh, I'm not sure, because when you talk about TrueFire, Jam Play, Artist Works, admin, marketing, content, there's a lot. Nathan, do you have an idea? Give me a number.
Man, I don't know either. There's quite a few of us, but I think that's confidential information.
More than just me and Nathan. Let me put it that way.
There it is. Yeah.
It's up there. So yeah, man, it's definitely a lot.
And within these office hours, you may see some of our other folks who work for us here at TrueFire throughout the ways that we do these
right.
office hours events.
I could get fired. I could just get fired after this one. This could be the last time you see me on this. And they're like, all right, he's got zero help. But no, thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it. For spending some time with us here on a Thursday evening. We'll do it again. And this is the first broadcast one of these, Adam, and there's going to be more of these. Who makes the tea would be Allie. Allie makes tea. If you ever go to TrueFire Studios, there is a wall. I mean, it's like 30 feet long of every kind of coffee making device I've ever seen in my life. There is a big tube that goes from the floor in a big circle up to the ceiling and then drips down cold brew. I mean, it's the science there. It's not for. I'm an amateur, so I'm not a big coffee drinker, so I am totally lost there. So if you are ever in TrueFire, you'll see. We should do that. We should do a little video of that sometime, Nathan, and have you do a live
a walkthrough during.
Yeah. That might be something we work on for one of these. So put a pin in it, as they say. But thank you guys for being here, for showing up. Come to the next one. Hang out with Nathan and I, and we'll do this again, man. But really appreciate it. Thank you, Nathan, for putting this up, making it all work. I just show up and talk, so that's pretty easy. Nathan does all the real heavy lifting here. So thank you, Nathan, and we'll see you guys on the next.
We'll see you guys soon. See you next week.
Yeah, sounds great.